Hey mama, as women who work and also have children, we are in demand, am I right? And that's why I find it so very important for us to have boundaries, because if we didn't, we would be stretched too thin. I would always find myself on the floor at the middle of the night crying in a ball if I did everything that everyone wanted from me. And so I have to set boundaries. And there are a lot of different boundaries that we can set, right? We talk about boundaries that are physical, that are sexual, that are time-based, boundaries that are related to our finances. One of the boundaries that we don't talk a lot about that I want to share are intellectual boundaries. Intellectual boundaries are so important, especially when we are thinking about work. Intellectual boundaries are about having respect for different opinions, about having respect for curiosity, about having respect for open dialogue, as well as for having respect for when it makes sense to talk about something, right? It's vital to our career and our sanity that we have intellectual boundaries and that we are consistent with them. Before I go into what this might look like and how it might manifest, I do want to remind you a little bit of tough love, right? Boundaries are about you and what you're willing to accept. They're not about other people, right? It's not about other people's actions and you changing them or changing their actions. Boundaries are truly about you and what you're willing to accept. And so, giving someone the silent treatment because they aren't respecting your boundaries is not really the best path forward, right? You need to address it and then be consistent with the boundary that you've set. And so I want to share with you a little bit more about what intellectual boundaries look like, because they are so important to us thriving at work. Here's a few ways that they can manifest, right? 1, refusing to discuss non-urgent items outside of the regular workday, right? You ever get a call on a Saturday or a Sunday, or your boss rings you at 2 a.m. because they've got a brilliant idea? If the thing isn't urgent, then it's not the time to talk about it, right? And so it's fair to say, hey, this is really important and I'm looking forward to discussing it, knowing it's not time sensitive. Let's reschedule this. Let's pick up this conversation Monday at 10 or tomorrow morning, right? Let's pick up this conversation during normal work hours. Another important work boundary, intellectual boundary at work, is to not engage with people who belittle you. It is okay to have a difference of opinion. In fact, it's important that we have differences of opinions, right? If everyone was thinking and doing the same, we wouldn't be in the best place possible. We would be kind of all stuck, right? So having that difference of opinion is really, really important, but it doesn't make anyone dumb. It doesn't make anyone stupid. It doesn't make anyone less valuable. And so refusing to engage with people who belittle you is not helpful, right? And a lot of times that seems to come when people don't agree with you, right? They say things to try to make you feel small or inadequate or invisible or stupid, and it's not okay. So it's fair to say to someone, I understand you disagree, but that is not a reason to belittle me. Let's pick up this topic when you're ready to have a respectful conversation. That is setting an intellectual boundary. Another one is to agree to disagree, right? There are people who are not okay with disagreeing. And again, if we were all thinking the same, we would not end up with the best ideas, right? The best ideas come from people thinking a little bit differently and from that tension that grows when we don't see everything eye to eye all the time. And so agreeing to disagree is extremely important. Also, let's be real, we're all people at work and people don't see things the same all the time, and that is okay. So agreeing to disagree is an intellectual boundary that we need to have. And it can sound like this. I respect we have different opinions. Here's mine. I hear you and I understand what you're saying. I have a different opinion and we can agree to disagree. In these instances where people continue to push on you, you can always ask them this question. What would it take to change your mind? And for some self-reflection, you should always know what it would take to change your mind. In a world where you disagree on things, it's because your belief is rooted in something. So what would it take to change that belief, right? Are you open enough to be willing to change your belief if X, Y, and Z were presented, if the facts were different than what they are? then you can state that. And if you're talking to someone and you ask them, what would it take to change your mind? And they can't answer it, then you know that their belief is not one that they are open to hearing anything about, and you couch that conversation and move on with the knowledge, right? The last one that I want to share with you around intellectual boundaries at work is to not have circular conversations. You know, those conversations that just go in circles and never go anywhere. And broaching this, right, creating that boundary can sound like, each time we discuss this, we don't get very far. Let's refocus the conversation on an area where we can make traction. Let's refocus the conversation on an area where we can get some progress. And then refocus the conversation. These are a few different ways to set intellectual boundaries at work. And it is so important for you to have them in order to thrive. And when you thrive, everything gets better, mama. When you thrive, your company will be more profitable. You and your family will be happier. Your community will improve. And so I want you to take some action, because all of this you just listened to is worth nothing if you don't take action. So here's the action that I want you to take. I want you to right now identify what intellectual boundary you're going to take, and then identify some words you can use to help showcase that boundary. Did any of the boundaries that I just shared with you, any of those sounds, what this sounds like, what this boundary sounds like, did any of that resonate with you? Are there boundaries that people broach with you often at work?